So for 55, it says you can use a calculator, but it won't really help you. So we're just going to graph it without. A is a hyperbola. Let me actually get some graph paper. And the center's been moved, so we have to plot the center at 0, 2. And then we're going to count for the box. We're going to go the square root of 4, so 2 to the right, 2 to the left from the center. And then the y term's over 1, so we're going to go with up 1 and down 1. And this gives us the rectangle so that we can draw our asymptotes. So we're going to draw a dashed line through the corners of the rectangle, and those are our asymptotes. And now because the x term is first, this is a hyperbola that opens in the horizontal direction. And there's our graph for A. B is a circle. And the circle has a center of 3, -2. So we're going to go 3 to the right and down 2. And then the radius is going to be 2, which is the square root of 4. So we're going to go 2 up, 2 to the right, 2 down, 2 left, and connect your points. Okay, so now for C, to get rid of these. For C, we have an ellipse, since the problem has a plus sign in the middle, and the center of the ellipse is at 1, -1. We're going to go 4 in the x direction, 3 in the y. And now connect our co-vertices to a vertex we have in our ellipse. Lastly, for D, it's a parabola, and our vertex is at 1, 2. We have to use the x-coordinate first. Because it's a y squared but with a negative, it's going to open to the left. And we have to figure out where our focus is. So the focus is 4p equals -2. So p is a half. So a half unit here, a half unit here for our directrix. And then to draw the parabola, it has to open around the focus and away from the directrix. Like this, and then this way. Okay, so for 56 through 59, we have to name it and then complete the square to write it in standard form. So first, let's name it. 56 is a parabola. There's only one squared term. 57 is going to be an ellipse because x squared plus y squared with different coefficients. 58 is a circle because it's x squared plus y squared with the same coefficients. And 59 is a hyperbola because it's a subtraction between the squared terms and the coefficients, whether the same or different does not matter. Okay, so for 56, to write that in standard form, I'm going to add the y term to the right, and then we have to factor out the 4, and there's our answer for 56. For 57, I'm going to reorganize the information so that I have my x's, I have my y's, and then before you can complete the square, you have to factor out any coefficient on a squared term. So 9 divided by 9 is the 1 for y squared, and then 18 divided by 9, negative 2. So now we can complete the square. Half of 2 squared to both sides. And then half of negative 2 squared is 1. But before you add that to the other side, you also have to multiply it back by the coefficient. So that's plus 9. So now that we've completed the square, we can factor. Simplify the terms on the right. And then standard form has it equal to 1, so we have to divide everything by 9. And there's our answer for 57. Okay, so for 58, I'm going to reorganize this so that the x's are together. I'm going to move the constant to the right side of the equal sign. Now we can complete the square. Half of 8 is 16. Now we can factor. And this is 25. And then lastly, for 59 on this page, we're going to reorganize it so the x's are together. And I'm going to move the constant to the right. So now before we complete the square, we have to factor out the coefficients. For the y squared, we're going to factor out the negative 4. So 8 divided by negative 4 is negative 2. So half of 4 squared is 4, but then 4 times 9, add 36. Half of 2 squared is 1. 1 times negative 4 is negative 4. So now we can factor. Combine our like terms, and because standard form has it equal to 1, we're going to divide everything by 36. And our final answer is this equation. Okay, so solving a system, we can either use substitution or elimination. For A, because we already have x equals, I'm going to use substitution and substitute it in for this x. You have to be careful when you have a binomial squared. It really means it's times itself. So you have to multiply them together, FOIL, box method, distribute. And we're going to combine our like terms. So 16 minus 4. I'm going to move the 9 over. That's 0. Now we can factor out the greatest common factor. And set each factor equal to 0. So y equals 0 and y equals 2. But now we need the corresponding x for both of them. Let me get our equations here. So we can use one of the originals to substitute back in to get y. I don't recommend the bottom one. It's harder. So if we use this top equation, x equals 4 times 0 minus 3. Oops. So that's x equals negative 3. So we have a point negative 3, 0. And then for the other one, so we have to do the same thing for y equals 2 here. So x is 5, so that's the point 5, 2. Okay, so now going back up and doing b. For b, I don't want to do substitution. It's set up really nicely for elimination, where if we add these equations together, divide by 14, we get x squared equals 1. Now you have to remember, when you square root both sides, it's plus or minus. So we have an x equals 1 and an x equals -1 to substitute into the equations. I'm going to choose the top equation just because it's all positive. I like that better. So now solving. We get y squared is 25. So y is plus or minus 5. When you plug back in -1 now, it's going to go into an x squared, so it's going to become +1 as well. So we can write plus or minus 1, plus or minus 5 as our answer, or you can list out all 4 points with the combination of the positives and negatives. Okay, so for the grid-ins, for 61, if you want to use your calculator, you can do the change of base. Or we can say 9 to what power is 27. We'll make the bases the same. So what is 3 over 2? So when we do the grid-in, 3 divided by 2. The equation of the horizontal asymptote. So for a rational function, the horizontal asymptote is y equals, which is really nice to even give you that hint here. When the degrees of the numerator and denominator are the same, we divide the leading coefficients. That's 3 divided by 5. And then lastly, the exponent. Let's change the radical to a 1/4. We can multiply the exponent, so 8 times 1/4 is 2. So it's asking just the exponent, so that's 2.